Thank God it's Monday. I'm Krista from the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast. Welcome back for your Monday morning quickie. Well, welcome back to another Monday morning quickie where I love to light the mental match, warm up your nervous system, and tell you the truth without being, well, you know what? Without all the fucking bullshit. Let's just be quite honest. I'm Krista. I am the Gritty Glitter Badger in charge of reminding you that we were not put on this planet to play small. I'm also the keeper of the den. And, we are not meant to compartmentalize ourselves inside of tiny little boxes because somebody with a teeny tiny minuscule worldview gets uncomfortable. So grab your coffee, whatever, grab your backbone. If you need an extra vertebrae, I have an extra vertebrae in my lower lumbar that I would be glad to let you borrow just to get yourself your backbone and to finally stand up. And I want to talk about a proverb that it's going to hit like a clean PR. And it is, a lion doesn't sleep over the opinion of sheep. And it's blunt. I freaking love it. It's a whole vibe. And it's also a mirror. And that's why I picked it for this week's Monday morning quickie. And, I sat down when I was doing my notes for the show and really like vibing on this one, because if I'm being honest, most of us are not losing sleep over sheep's opinions, okay? We're losing sleep over the fact that we keep handing our inner steering wheel, if you will, to whoever has the loudest freaking mouth or like the messiest energy or the most conveniently timed side eye roll, eye roll, whatever it is. And, maybe it's a comment, a look, a passive aggressive, just checking in or whatever else it might be. Or, this weird little unfollow or a family member's concern or a stranger online who's allergic to your confidence, right? Suddenly, the bags, the big ass goals, the vision that you have, it feels too much. And now your joy or, any real delight and passion that you had for that bag, the big ass goal, it feels cringe, and your ambition feels like you need to apologize for it. Well, I'm here to tell you, no, abso-fucking-lutely not. What that is your nervous system confusing social noise with social danger. So there's a reason, why negativity lands so hard. So humans are wired to track social standing because historically, right? Go way back to, you know, the Stone Age or the beginning of man, okay? We historically, we are wired for this because social rejection could mean real risk, right? And our brain doesn't always distinguish between a genuine threat and someone's opinion who, their opinion that is like served cold with this side of, their projection. Okay. And here's what is actually really cool and really wild is scientists actually stuck people in labs and they watch their cortisol go, haywire just from being judged, right? It's this crazy thing. It wasn't from actual danger, not from some true, real physical threat, but from someone giving them a freaking stink eye while they tried to do math problems. And the Dickerson crew found that it wasn't just having people around that made stress hormones spike. It was knowing that these people were judging you. Your body literally cannot tell the difference between, Karen's passive aggressive comment about your ambitious goals and an actual tiger stalking you through the jungle. So when you start to feel, you like the hot flush of I'm too much after someone criticizes you, your body isn't being dramatic. It is actually being human. And it's also being it's outdated as hell because it's functioning based on the old human needs, right? So now here's the part where I'm going to be like a friend and a coach at the same time, okay? It's like my bullshit meter is on. And just because your body is reacting to something, it doesn't mean that you have to obey it. Your biology is giving you data, it's giving you feedback. That doesn't mean that it's a directive. And the cortisol spike, it's just information. It's not this life sentence. It's not like, okay, here's what I got to do thing. If you keep letting small minds shrink your vision, your bags, you're going to spend a whole life negotiating with people who were never fucking qualified to write your story in the first place. And, so let's think about this plainly. Some people, they just don't want you to expand because your expansion is going to make them face their own stagnation, their own fixed ways, what they didn't do or, haven't done. And your growth is confrontational to somebody who has made comfort their, you know, quote unquote religion, if you will, right? Your discipline is offensive to someone who survives on excuses. And the confidence that you have, that threatens somebody who benefits when you doubt yourself, right? And it's not your problem. Plain and simple. It is not your problem. That is not your circus. You are not the trainer. And it's definitely not your cue, your cue to dim your light. It actually is quite the antithesis. That is your cue to sharpen your fucking filter because your life is going to demand a decision. And are you building a future or are you just going to sit around and manage other people's feelings about your future? And, that's the whole heart of this whole thing is stop letting small minds shrink your vision. And I know it really sounds like a motivational poster thing. And I say that all the time. Like, I don't like the motivational poster stuff all the time, you know. So here's the Badger way to say it. Stop fucking outsourcing your self-trust to people who haven't built a damn thing that you want or haven't built anything at all. And here's what tends to happen, okay? You get a mission. And I'm talking about a real one, not like some cute little goal that's going to fit neatly into like this little planner and you have all your little stickers and all your little fun stuff. And I'm not saying that's wrong because I do like a sticker and an organizer and fun stuff. But I'm talking about an actual mission that costs something. And you start showing up differently. You post the thing. You maybe it's you're raising your prices or you are training like you mean it, okay? You say no. It could be you stop being available for nonsense. And right on schedule, those background characters start auditioning for the role of the director of your life. And they will offer their opinions with the confidence of somebody who has never carried the weight that you are carrying. And, they're going to call it feedback. Well, sometimes it's not feedback. And oddly enough, I don't even recall asking you for your fucking feedback, right? I have a shirt that says, of course your opinion matters, just not to me. And that's the fucking truth. If I didn't ask, don't give it. Sometimes it's fear wearing, maybe it's disguised as them thinking they're being helpful, but they're actually not. They actually are covering up passive aggressiveness. So I want to talk strategy, but not in this stiff business suit corporate kind of way. You know me, I'm more like two friends. We're just going to hang out. We're going to sit down. We're going to have like a little campfire chat. Maybe we got some hot chocolate, right? Still going to be fucking real as shit, but here's what's actually going on. And here's how we freaking fix it. So I hope you are having pen and paper. If you can, if you're driving, come back to this later. If you now are like hanging out, chilling, get your pen and paper, okay? So hot badger tip Strategy number one is anchor to your mission daily, not weekly, not when you remember, not quarterly, daily, because your mission is the rope that keeps you from getting dragged into, like the swamp or the mess or the stream of other people's moods, okay? And you know, when scientists actually studied this, they found something crazy because people with a strong sense of purpose don't just feel better, they literally live longer. And Boyle's team tracked older adults and they discovered that having real purpose, a real true purpose and passion in life, it cut their risk of dying from any cause. And then another massive study with thousands of people found the same exact theme. Purpose isn't just poetic, it is actually protective, right? And it's like it gives you something to wake up for. It is something greater than you. And your body runs differently when you know why you're here and not just, again, the big bag and analogy, like floating around aimlessly and having no idea. You make different choices. You handle stress differently, right? It's not like you have no control over it and you stop treat that was my dogs. Oh, you hear that? I don't know if this will be edited out. That is really funny. Because my dogs are actually of all times getting ready to play. So, it's like you stop treating every, eye roll or whatever people say like it's a death threat because you've got bigger shit to build. And this is why I want you anchoring this daily, not with some, and it's not performative, okay? And also don't say affirmations that you don't believe in. That to me is just a silly waste of time. If you're just, spouting off like, somebody else's list of affirmations. But if they work for you, that's fine. But if they don't waste your time on it. Do things that are actually going to give you momentum. With something that's going to hit you in your gut because it's true, because for you there is feeling and meaning behind it. And your mission statement, it can be one sentence. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I don't want it to be perfect. It can be messy, right? It just needs to be real. Something, maybe it's something like I build strength and self-trust through consistent work, or I create a life that feels honest and free. Whatever it is, it needs to be yours. You don't need a speech. You don't need, to have like a stake in the ground, just a few words that actually means something to you. So, second strategy is limit exposure to negativity. And this isn't because you're fragile, but because this is where you turn into a strategic human being who sets high standards. And there's a difference between avoiding hard truths and then refusing to swim in someone else's nasty, toxic waste. One is going to make you weak, and the other one's going to make you focused as fuck, right? And that's what you want to be. You want that FAF, focused as fuck version of you. So your nervous system, think about it like a nice warm campfire, okay? If you feed it dry trash all day, all you're going to get is smoke. I think about that like when we'll have like not trash, but like pine branches and things like that, like wood from the backyard that we'll collect. And some of it really is just like all smoky and things like that. What you need to do is feed it steady fuel and you're going to get nice flames and warmth. So if you scroll negativity, on social media, and believe me, there is a lot of that bullshit out there right now. I mean, you can't scroll for all the negative bullshit that is there, right? Or, it's listening to gossip or, letting people dump their cynicism in your lap. And then you wonder why you feel heavy or you feel distracted or you're not focused or, you're just all over the place, emotionally and mentally. Well, it's not a mystery. That's just plain physics. So scientists literally put people in front of screens and they watch their bodies freak out from mean comments, not physical threats, comments from people they don't even know. You know, it could be one nasty Instagram reply, and, all of a sudden your heart rate is spiking like you're being chased by some predator in the middle of the night through the woods that you have no idea where you're running to or what's going to happen. And your cortisol floods like there's actual literal danger. And, researchers were probably who did this were thinking like, Jesus, God, this is like, holy shit, right? How it's fascinating and crazy how we humans are wired, and hearing this and then watching the anxiety spike from pixels on a screen. So, when you say, I don't know why I feel off, and I've said this, man, that's why I will take social media breaks because it's just like, dude, I feel fucking drained, right? It's not because I'm weak or because you're weak. It's because your brain is absorbing social threat cues all day long. Like somebody threw a fucking sponge into the middle of a nasty septic tank and you're just absorbing all of that, right? And, we can also like stop pretending like, oh, well, I'm above that. That doesn't affect me, because you can be the most self-aware, spiritually grounded, emotionally intelligent human on earth. And I'm sorry, but a single nasty comment, it's still going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. And it's not because you lack confidence, right? It's because you have a social brain. The goal is to not become numb. The goal is to become discerning, to filter. So limit exposure. It actually means that, you stop letting random people rent fucking space in your head. Actually, they're not even renting it. They're like fucking squatters, just showing up and taking over the real estate inside your head. Kick them the fuck out. It means you stop marinating in criticism that isn't constructive, especially because you know what? If you didn't ask for it, all those people who say, well, if you ask my opinion, well, guess what? I fucking didn't. And if you want well, I don't because I didn't ask you for your advice in the first place. So stop right there, right? It means you notice what accounts, what conversations, group chats, people, news habits that leave you feeling tight chested and irritated. I'm just talking about that because situations come up in my head, my jaw is tight. The whole opinion and advice thing really pisses me off. Okay. So if you can't tell that it has me all jacked up, I feel like I need to down regulate like right now here on my podcast because it has me like all, my anxiety is like, "Argh." But we take a deep breath and we're good, and you adjust like an adult who wants peace. So this is like me, real time down regulation on my podcast. So a third strategy is when we can practice self-validation. So what I mean by that is, some people hear self-validation and like, oh, here we fucking go with this shit again. Like, oh, it's soft and like we're going to sit around in a circle and, we're going to hold hands and lean over and we're going to whisper little compliments to each other into the void. That's not what I'm talking about, people. Okay. If you're new to this podcast, that's not what I mean. I mean self-validation as basically telling your panicked nervous system to chill the fuck out so that you can actually think straight. And Cohen and Sherman spent years watching what happens when people remind themselves, who they are before facing criticisms. And it turns out that when you actually anchor to your values first, your brain stops treating every piece of feedback like it's a 5 alarm fire. And so it's like giving your nervous system this reality check in real time. It's like, hey, remember, we're solid, okay? We know who we are. This random opinion doesn't change anything and it doesn't mean anything. So I'm not talking about self-validation. It's not I'm perfect, it's I'm anchored. And, I'm allowed to be a work in progress without being a fraud. That's another huge one. We're all a work in progress. And somebody that says that, well, I'm not a work in progress. I'm, a masterpiece. I'm done. No, you're not. You might be a masterpiece, but you're not done. There's always something that can be, tweaked or, filled in, or, I get it, a piece of the master, and I hear that a lot. And I'm not talking about it in that context. What I'm talking about here is that I don't need a unanimous approval to be legitimate, okay? And that matters because if we don't validate ourselves, we will chase validation like it's fucking oxygen, and we're going to over explain. And I am speaking from experience. This is my podcast is I am literally speaking about life experiences, okay? It's going to be performative. We will shapeshift, right? We'll shrink. We're going to seek permission from people who aren't living, our life. And we're going to become easy to manipulate, emotionally be easy to manipulate because our self-worth is crowdsourced then that's not freedom. That is an emotionally indentured servitude, if you will. And I want to talk about filtering feedback because I mentioned earlier about being able to filter shit out because that's a grown-up move, okay? And I'm telling you, it's grown up because most of us can't do it. And it's not that you ignore everything. You're not a lion that is pretending that the sheep don't exist, okay? You are a lion who knows which voices belong in the council. So filter the feedback. And quite honestly, if somebody's giving you feedback and you didn't ask for it, then just say so. Be like, I appreciate it, but I didn't ask for your feedback, you know? And only those, it can, and it only comes from those two. Like, it's important to know that you take it from those who are in the arena. And I'm talking about basically, I'm, you know, the man in the arena from Roosevelt, and that's what I'm referencing, which is I have that. It was a gift from my sister, a picture framed, the quote on the wall. It's still one of the best reality checks ever. I just adore that quote. If you don't know it, Roosevelt's Man in the Arena, go look it up. And the idea is quite simple. If someone's not doing the work, they don't get to grade your work. And if someone has no skin in the game, their opinion is 100% cheap and it doesn't matter. And if somebody has never built what you're building or built anything for that matter, then their advice often is just their anxiety in disguise. And we don't want that. And here's what I want you to notice, that people who are truly in the arena tend to give specific feedback. And typically it is strategic and it's actionable and it's not a character assassination. It sounds like, here's what worked and here's what didn't, and here's how it might improve. And they'll give more context behind it. And people who are not in the arena tend to give vague feedback, and it's personal, it's shaming, and it could sound something like, well, who do you think you are? Or, well, must be nice, or you've changed. Gotten that one? You've changed. I have gotten that a lot. And quite honestly, I am very grateful that people are noticing that I've changed, and I'm thankful for that because it is actually showing that my growth is noticeable. And that kind of stuff is not feedback. That's actually what I like to call an emotional protest. And also, sometimes the small mind isn't a person. It's sometimes it's like it's this internalized voice that you drag around from childhood, okay? From school, past relationships, old identities. The part of you that still believes being visible is dangerous. And it's the part that thinks success requires punishment. And it's also could be a part of us that equates confidence with arrogance. And that's something that I have struggled with, specifically the confidence and arrogance, big time. And that's still a sheep opinion, though. It just lives inside your head. We're filtering that too, okay? Now, I'm going to give you 3 simple hot badger tips. The other 3 I gave you, those are hot badger strategies. Strategies. It sounds like a Bee Gees song, strategy. You know what I mean? Anyway, 3 hot badger tips to begin implementing this. And yes, again, I want you to get the pen and paper because typing it in your phone while half watching a reel does not count. as integration, and there is actual science behind why using pen and paper is better and it becomes indelible in your mind. So we're going to do this like people who actually want to make change. So, hot badger tip number one, again, remember the mission is the anchor. So every morning, and again, if this don't vibe with you, just use this as a bare minimum template and make it fit into your life, okay? None of these might work for you, okay? Fit it into your life how it fits for you. I'm just using these based off of, my life and things that I come up with when I journal. So write one sentence at the top of the page, okay? My mission today is, and then I want you to fill it in with something real. Then write one sentence underneath it. If I get distracted by opinions, I will return to and then name your mission again. And this is you just rehearsing your return, okay? So here's why this works. What you're doing is you are actually creating a cognitive cue that's going to compete with social noise, and you're giving your brain a north star, if you will, because when judgment hits, and it's going to, okay? It's not like unless you're a hobbit in a hole somewhere living in the middle of an island, it's going to happen. I mean, your body may still react, but your mind has already practiced the path back to meaning. And the meaning is stabilizing, okay? So remember when I talked about those purpose studies earlier, when you have a strong sense of purpose, you literally live longer and your body's going to run differently, right? Because purpose isn't just inspiring, it's organizing, it's energizing, and it's going to help you prioritize, and also, it helps you to tolerate discomfort. And it is the mojo that you need to keep going. So, hot badger tip number two, that's the negativity budget. So, okay, we have budgets for multiple things. We have budgets for money, time, energy, attention. Okay. So treat negativity like it's a cost. That's a budget. On paper, draw 4 lines and label them: people, platforms, places, and patterns. Okay, the 4 P's. And then under people, and again, this is for your eyes only. Nobody needs to see this. So if you feel squishy and like weird, like, well, I can't be honest and write names down, nobody has to see it. Okay, so write names of anyone who consistently leaves you feeling smaller, anxious, disempowered, heavy, energy vampires, jellyfishers, people like that, right? That just literally like just suck the energy right out of you. Under platforms, right where negativity gets into your brain fastest, okay? Under places, write environments that trigger comparison or shrinking. Under patterns, write your own habits that keep you stuck, like doom scrolling, over explaining, picking fights in your head. I have. Me and Bruno is my noisy roommate who lives inside my head. I'm telling you, dude, sometimes it's like a freaking, we're in the ring, jabbing it out, like fighting it out. It is crazy, okay? And also another one is checking for likes like it's your job. So don't. That's a pattern, okay? If you post something and you're only doing it to see how many people like you, or whatever that might be. So this isn't about avoidance. This is actually called nervous system leadership. Your stress systems go haywire when you anticipate negative judgment. And scientists have watched this happen in real time. And those studies on negative online comments that I talked about earlier, they show your mood and your anxiety spike again from fucking pixels on a screen. So you are not being too sensitive by limiting what destabilizes you. You're actually being intelligent and you are choosing inputs that support your outputs. So, hot badger tip number three, this is going to be your self-validation receipt. Okay, so at the end of each day, write down one moment where you wanted approval and what you did instead. And it's okay because it's going to, I still get it. I still have moments where I will go to post something online and I'm like wanting to go back and did so. And because again, this isn't something you're going to do one time and there's going to be this, miraculous, like, oh my God, I've like squashed it. I'm over it. I did it. No, this is going to be a habitual practice, okay? Because it's wired in us, right? Again, that needing the group approval because of the real risk threat if we didn't have it. And then, so write down the one moment where you wanted approval and what you did instead, and then write one sentence validating yourself for the action that you took. So, an example could be, and something that I do is I wanted to explain myself, but I stayed calm and I said what I meant. Okay. And doing that is actually quite brave because being being honest and being able to be forthright is very hard because we are all like, scared of what kind of reciprocation that we're going to get. So, you know, there could be a journal prompt for this one. If you wanted a journal prompt, could be, what would it look like to be on my own side, even if nobody claps? And then I want you to answer that like you actually mean it. And, this is what self-affirmation researchers discovered, that when you remind yourself who you are and what you value, your brain stops treating every criticism like it's a dumpster fire, and you end up broadening your identity beyond the one thing that you're being judged, okay? And then you end up reminding your brain that your worth is not up for debate every freaking time someone has a mood. And people are going to have moods all the time. And, you know, if you want a quick way to decide whose feedback matters, here's like a filter for you. So ask yourself, do they want me to win? Do they live with integrity? Do they have the highest of standards? Do they understand the game I'm playing? Do they speak with specificity? Have they earned access to my inner world? And, really think about those. And if the answer is no, even if just one of those are no, then their feedback is probably compost, okay? And it might still sting, but it's going to help you steer clear of those that you don't want in your arena. Now, I want to talk about a sneaky little trap, and that sometimes we use people's opinions as an excuse to delay, okay? So, we say, maybe, like, well, God, if I do this, I'm worried about what they're going to think. But what it really means, if I do this and it doesn't work, then, I I'll have to feel the disappointment, or I'll have to deal with the people pointing the fingers or the I told you so's or whatever it is. So we're going to hide behind potential judgment because it feels safer than risking a real outcome. And this is where my bullshit meter is going to go off, and it's going to call you out, because your fear of judgment is not protecting you. It is actually preventing you. It is stealing your time, and the time, that is the one thing that you do not get refunded. When it is gone, it is gone. There are no deposits, only withdrawals. And I also want to be very clear. Some feedback is real. Sometimes we need to hear the hard shit, even when we don't want to, okay? And the goal is not to become unteachable. The goal is to stop being controllable. There's a huge difference between the two. So people in the arena will sometimes tell you something that you don't want to hear, but it's going to land with respect and usefulness, okay? People who are outside of the arena, they're going to tell you something that you don't want to hear, and it's going to land with shame. Respectful truth helps you grow. Shame tries to make you shrink. So, what do you do in the moment when a criticism hits and your body starts to react? Okay, we talked about this before in some previous podcasts. You name the experience. Okay, this feels like judgment. Slow your exhale. And then, is this feedback from someone in the arena, or is this just noise? And if it's noise, release it. If it's in the arena feedback, you're going to extract the lesson without swallowing the insult, because you can learn without self-abandoning, and you can adjust without completely falling apart and imploding and collapsing. And if you're a person who's building something public like I am, or other people that you know, or you're brave, or whatever it is, you're going to have to develop a tolerance for being misunderstood. It's just far it's like it's part of the freaking cost of doing it. And you also don't get to be widely seen and universally approved. That little combination, it does not exist. If you want to be visible and honest, someone's always going to be irritated. So let them, okay? Their irritation, that's not your emergency. And I want to say something that maybe this, like, I don't know, maybe it'll piss you off, maybe it won't. I don't know, but some people are committed to misunderstanding you because it justifies how they treat you. So if they understood you, they wouldn't have to respect you. If they respected you, they might have to confront what they've avoided in themselves. So they choose a smaller version of you that they can manage, okay? They can compartmentalize, they can put it in here, and it makes sense for them. That version is not you. So stop fucking negotiating with it and becoming that just to make them feel better. Now, I want to come back to the quote, because the point is that I'm not, is not I'm better than everyone. I don't want anybody, this is not what I'm saying. The point is I am responsible for what I focus on. Lions don't lose sleep over sheep's opinions because lions have a job. They have a mission. They have a hunt, a pride to protect, a life to live. And they listen, lions are not spending their days in a freaking comment section of the savannah. They're just not, okay? So your job this week is to reclaim your attention, reclaim your mission, reclaim your self-trust, not with drama, with discipline. And you do it the same way that you build strength, rep by rep, choice by choice, intent by intent, boundary by freaking boundary. And remember, your anchor, that daily anchor, because that strong life purpose and all of that, it's not woo woo. It's, that's data, and limiting your exposure to all of the things that are going to spike your cortisol and give you anxiety for no reason because of some rando's comment on social media. Seriously, stop. Your nervous system, again, is not telling the difference between some keyboard warrior, you don't even know who it is, and you got like a freaking saber-toothed tiger out here right behind your window is going to jump through and get you. Okay, like just step away from Karen's passive aggressive fake book post and let it go. Practice the self-validation. Go back to the strategies and the hot badger tips that I gave you and filter feedback, because not everyone deserves a vote in your life. So here's the last thing, Badgers, on this Monday, and I'll say this before we wrap this up. Your vision is not too big. Your bags, your big ass goals are not too big. In fact, I would wager that they aren't as big as they could be. Your environment might just be too small. And that does not mean that you shrink your vision to fit it. It means that you're going to upgrade your environment. You're going to upgrade the arena, if you will. It means that you need to, you get to upgrade your inputs and strengthen your inner foundation so that you can carry what you're called to build. And so if you felt called out today, good. That means that your nervous system is waking up and your future self is clapping quietly in the corner. So take 10 minutes today with an actual pen and actual paper and do those 3 hot badger tips. Not perfectly, just honestly. Remember, nobody needs to see those. It is for your eyes only. Then go and do one thing that moves your mission forward, even if nobody validates it, especially if nobody validates it. you know. And as always, keep it real. We got to keep it moving. And I want you to go get that shit done. And I will see you next time. Don't just go through life, grow through life.